We must protect the position of the American dollar as a pillar of monetary stability around the world. I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States. Let me lay to rest the bugaboo of what is called devaluation. Your dollar will be worth just as much tomorrow as it is today. The effect of this action, in other words, will be to stabilize the dollar. The United States has always been and will continue to be a forward-looking and trustworthy trading partner.
Broadcasting from Brisbane, Australia, this is the FOMO Show.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Joe.
And this is a podcast where you'll hear about blockchain, cryptocurrency, emerging markets, and future tech in relatively plain English.
We'll help you stay across what's going on so you don't get the fear of missing out.
You can find us at FOMO.show or by searching for the FOMO Show on your platform of choice.
Now, everything in the show is in the show notes. You can find links to the stuff we're talking about and timestamps to the relevant parts, so you can always skip ahead or catch up later.
So this episode, we're going to be interviewing TM Lee, who is the co-founder of CoinGecko, one of our favourite cryptocurrency aggregator sites.
We're also exploring a bit of news from the last fortnight.
And we'll also cover email forwarding sites and services in our privacy and security section. So that should all be interesting. So let's get into it.
If you want to be a part of the show, why not record a voice message in Telegram or email it to us at FOMOshow@protonmail.com.
So what have you been up to the last couple of weeks, mate?
So I set up some ads for the FOMO Show, which are now showing within podcast listening apps. So yeah, that's pretty exciting. We've had I think it's about 30,000 people view the ad thus far, which is pretty exciting. So yeah, it's just cool to get it out there.
Yeah. So if this is your first new episode listening to the show, very big welcome to you. Hopefully you enjoy it. And if you do enjoy it, please feel free to share it with your friends.
Yeah. What have you been up to, mate?
Yeah, so I am now a bona fide remote employee. So I do not work for anyone in any office anymore.
So what are you doing?
So I am about 50% of my time I'm spending still as a lawyer, but I'm working for a dispersed legal practice. So I can work from home. I've got a membership at a co-working space. I can go in there and I can go to people's businesses.
And what kind of legal work do you do?
Yeah, so most of my legal work is now focused on technology and business law. So basically startups, small, medium businesses. I do a little bit with the larger businesses, but basically your small to medium enterprise clients is where I sit, mainly focused on the technology sector or companies that are touching the technology sector in some way.
That's awesome. And what else have you been up to in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, so I also went out to Tenterfield to talk about blockchain and smart contracts.
Wow.
Now, Tenterfield is a little town in northern New South Wales out in the country.
Yeah.
And I was really surprised to get the invite out there, first of all. And it's somewhere I'm quite familiar with because I'm from somewhere not too far away from there. Right. And that's not too far away in country terms. So about an hour and a half away, which is practically down the road when you live out in the country. But it was great. I went out there and spoke at their business breakfast out there, and we had about 15 to 20 people show up, which is really good for a town of only about 3,000 people.
Wow.
Whereas Brisbane's about 2 million, and sometimes we don't get that amount of people to a meet-up here.
Wow.
It was awesome, and it was really green. That had a lot of rain. And we had it at their TAFE, which is like an educational institution out there, and it was right on the edge of town. So I was literally speaking, and in my view from where I was speaking looked out on this massive paddock, and there was a mountain in the distance, and it was unreal. And they really looked
in the countryside.
Oh mate, and they really looked after me. And yeah, so if anyone is listening from out in Tenterfield, thank you again for the hospitality. It was an amazing time. So yeah, and I was just amazed at the interest. Everyone was really interested in blockchain and crypto and smart contracts, and really engaged with the content as well, which was great. I ended up spending a couple of hours presenting and answering questions and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, it was good fun.
That's awesome. bit of disclosure, this is not investment or any other type of advice. Legal, tax, financial, business, any kind of advice. This isn't it.
Yeah, we're not saying you should buy anything at all on the show. And look, full disclosure, we're both personally invested in different cryptocurrencies and other investments, some of which we will talk about on this show. But if we talk about a project, it does not mean you should buy it.
So do your research, never invest more than you can afford to lose, and avoid the fear of missing out.
If you're new around here and new to crypto, you can check out our Blockchain Basics series. It starts from episode 2 and continues until episode 8. It'll give you some grounding in the fundamentals and help you understand what on earth we're talking about.
Let's dive into some of the news from the last fortnight. First up, coming out of the IEEE Spectrum magazine, it's a good time to be a blockchain developer.
Yeah, so the online recruitment firm Glassdoor this month reported a 300% increase on its site in job openings seeking people with blockchain skills.
Now, most of the new jobs that Glassdoor reported are in New York City, San Francisco, San Jose in the US, and then London after that with 189 openings, Singapore with 85 openings. That's pretty impressive. Toronto with 82 openings, Hong Kong with 79 openings. So, yeah, 421 openings in New York City, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's unreal. And Upwork's Quarter 2 2018 Skills Index. And for those that don't know, Upwork is like a gig economy website. And I've used it before. It's brilliant. But they listed blockchain as the fastest growing skill set in terms of demand, and growing 3,500%, as we mentioned back in episode 25.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's just more numbers coming out saying that this is a pretty big deal. Yeah, recent surveys are finding that, if you're a blockchain developer, you're actually looking at a salary that's much higher than the average developer. So, according to Janko Associates' 2019 IT salary survey, the median salary for a blockchain developer was $127,000 a year, with experienced blockchain engineers making $172,000 a year, and compared to $100,000 a year for median salary for IT jobs overall. So
so if you're an IT, someone who works in IT and you're a programmer, you can go on Udemy, find a couple of blockchain courses. No, I'm just kidding.
So the next bit of news came as a bit of a surprise to me. I woke up this morning, had to double check the date. It wasn't April the 1st. The blockchain company Consensys has is buying Planetary Resources, which is an asteroid mining company.
Yeah, so Planetary Resources President and CEO Chris Lewicki and General Counsel Brian Israel have joined Consensys in connection with the acquisition. And Joe Lubin, who's the founder of Consensys, has said, "I admire Planetary Resources for its world-class talent, its record of innovation, and for inspiring people across our planet in support of its bold vision of the future." And it sounds like, I had some issues trying to actually work out what was going on here, like whether Consensys was just hiring them and bringing them in for their development expertise and their outside the box thinking, or whether Consensys is genuinely buying a deep space mining startup.
Now, I was very confused as to what to think. I just thought it was a prank at first. So I had to Google it to check, and then I posted to our FOMO Telegram. Brendan Lee, who is in our Telegram chat, he wrote, "I think it's weird. Consensys should be focused on scaling Ethereum, because Consensys is a company they are organized around sort of a decentralized company organized around building Ethereum and making it better." And he goes, "Look, they should be focused on scaling Ethereum. The fact they even spend time on this is worrying for Ethereum investors, at least," he said. But yeah,
is it a case of these guys just have too much money?
And yikes.
And they're wanting to buy things up. Because, the issue for me is that I talk to businesses about Ethereum all the time. They're one of my biggest... They are my big example of how you can combine money and business logic and build smart contracts and things like that, and why it's such a big deal. But then the problem is when you start talking to them about it a bit more, you've always got to qualify it and be like, well, it's on Ethereum, and Ethereum's slow. Or, well, it's on Ethereum and Solidity's a leaky ship, and it's not a great language to program money in because it's got a lot of vulnerabilities. And like those are problems that they're not new. You know, they've been around for a long time now, and there are so many developers building on this platform, building some really cool stuff. Like if you look at the number of awesome projects that are being built on Ethereum, it's mind-boggling. But then to see the people that are kind of meant to be spending the time getting these scaling solutions to market and making this platform, you know, taking it from something that's slow, cumbersome to something that's actually enterprise grade. To see them going out and buying deep space mining companies, which aren't connected in any way, shape or form to Ethereum or blockchain.
Some might call it mission drift.
I think it's definitely mission drift.
But at the same time, devil's advocate here, is it possible that, you know, Ethereum would actually have some really useful use cases out in space? You know, some sort of space coin where it's all sort of, you've mined an asteroid and you're splitting up the value of what you've just mined from there using smart contracts? Or?
Yeah, I think definitely the consensus algorithms especially, it means that you could have a number of different, let's just say ships, for example, out there, or mining stations or whatever. And, you know, with a ledger like Ethereum or Bitcoin, they don't need to be connected to each other all the time. They can come back together. Let's say, you know, this because the speed of light's obviously an issue. They don't need to be in constant contact with each other. The ledger can come back and reconcile as long as everyone checks the transactions and it all gets put into one large ledger at the end. So yeah, I guess there may be use cases for that kind of stuff, but I mean, when we're not even out there doing it yet, and look, it was probably just one person's idea, and they talked to them, had a beer with them, and they said, "Oh, we'd like to come in under Consensys," and so they worked the details out, and now they're in. Like the actual human capital that was spent on this and time probably wasn't a lot in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, nice bit of PR, you know.
Yeah.
Give Ethereum investors some sort of...
I mean, we're talking about Ethereum again, and we're talking about Consensys again.
So it must be working.
Yeah.
Good PR. Man.
Any publicity.
Next up, Alibaba's Cloud's blockchain as a service is now available outside China. So coming out of CCN, the cloud computing division of China's largest online retailer, Alibaba, has announced the expansion of its blockchain as a service beyond China. So now it's going to be available in the US as well as countries in Europe and Southeast Asia. So, yeah.
Yes, Alibaba's cloud blockchain as a service supports not just the Linux Foundation's Hyperledger fabric, but Ant Blockchain, which is developed by Ant Financial, a financial service affiliate of the giant online retailer. So it seems like Alibaba is really making a move to follow Amazon, Samsung, all those guys who are following Microsoft and Hyperledger and IBM and all those guys. It's a bit of Me Tooism, I guess, but then at the same time, from what I've heard from people who've been in China, China's a lot further ahead in a lot of ways with blockchain stuff. So maybe these guys have been, you know, maybe there's a whole bunch of companies that are already on their system. Who knows?
Visa's CEO says that crypto is not of interest yet. Speaking to CNBC's Jim Cramer, notorious pump and dump artist, the Visa CEO Al Kelly said that the cryptocurrency wouldn't pose a threat to their company in the short to medium term until it moves from being more of a commodity to actually really being a payment instrument, which is pretty fair.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I mean, Visa processes, 30,000 transactions a second, and Bitcoin processes 10.
Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's basically, it's him being nice and saying, when you guys take the training wheels off, then
when
we
you
can
want
talk.
to come and join the big boys at the big boys table.
Yeah. But it does mesh with, I've got a friend who went down to the big bankers conference in Sydney. So all the bankers first went to the IMF conference. It was like their yearly big conference, which was in Bali, funnily enough.
Right.
Just as I went in there, they were there as well in Denpasar. And from there, they all went to Sydney for this other big bankers conference, and he went down there. It was funny him talking to a lot of the bankers. A lot of them either didn't really know much about crypto at all, or they did, but they didn't really have much time for it yet. And that seems to be the general consensus, that it's still child's play. Like it's nowhere near. There were guys from JP Morgan there who manage, 20, 30 trillion dollar portfolios, investment portfolios for clients, and the crypto market's a little bit over $200 billion in market cap. And their one portfolio was like $20 trillion, So in that kind of perspective, it puts it all into perspective.
I mean, there's no point wasting time on it.
Yeah. It will come, but it's not there yet. So next bit of news, shEOS has announced the EOS 21 protocol, which lets you teleport your ERC20 tokens to EOS.
So EOS 21 is an open source protocol and the first of its kind to enable seamless cross-chain token movement from Ethereum to the EOS blockchain. Now, the protocol was conceptualized by the Cent CEO and shEOS co-founder Crystal Rose, and it was constructed on the premise that developers should have the technical and creative freedom to move their tokens to any chain they want. So, according to this Bitcoin Africa post, it's saying this represents an important step towards blockchain interoperability and communication.
Yeah, and I think what the EOS guys have identified is that the EOS blockchain is able to run smart contracts. It's able to work at a significantly higher volume of transactions per second than the Ethereum network. And so they've essentially said, look, if you're building an Ethereum project and you want to bring it over to EOS, we want to make it easier for you. And so that's what this token standard is essentially designed for. It's essentially designed so that you can bring your smart contract, which runs on the ERC standard, directly over to EOS, and it'll work just like it worked on Ethereum. It'll be like a chain swap, a one-to-one chain swap. Which is, I think it's a great move for them because it's just making things easier for people who are fed up waiting for Ethereum to scale and, fed up with them buying deep space mining projects instead of working on going to proof of stake to move to another blockchain. I think it's great. Wow. Any competition is good competition. I think this is a really good move, and even the naming's kind of funny. EOS 21. It's like they have to one up Ethereum,
I didn't even realize that. That's very clever.
Yeah.
That's very clever. Mate, next piece of news I'm super excited about. So Russia, India and Iran are going to cooperate on a new trade route alternative to the Suez Canal. So there was a meeting between Iran, Russia and India, and they announced on the other week that they would meet next month to hammer out the details of this project. So it's going to open up a massive land to sea, sea to land transport corridor that would basically save a lot of money.
Yeah, so currently, if you were wanting to get from, say, England through to India, there's two ways you can do it. You can do it the old way, which is all the way around Africa, down the bottom past South Africa, and up the other side, which is the way that they all used to do it. But then this canal called the Suez Canal was built, which kind of goes down the side of the Middle East, down through the Mediterranean Sea, the side of the Middle East, and out into the Arabian Sea. And you can go straight across to India. But it's a really small little area. I'm pretty sure it's quite highly tariffed by the governments because they know that they've got everyone over a barrel to go through, because it saves at least a couple of weeks, if not a month, off the journey. And yeah, it's still quite long. But if you look at the graph of this new route, it goes over land, essentially kind of what China is trying to do with their Silk Road. It's quite similar. It's taking it over a land route instead of a sea route. Yeah,
so what's going to happen is the transport time between Mumbai and Moscow will fall to just 20 days. And the time and cost of shipping will be reduced by 40%. So basically, you'd go on ship from India to Iran, and then you'd travel through Iran via train, and then across to Baku in Azerbaijan, across to, where is that, Afghanistan? Who knows where that is? And then up to, I think that is Afghanistan. Wow, yeah. Yeah, so that goes through Afghanistan, which actually is going to give him a bunch more trade through there.
Yeah, it doesn't have to travel through Pakistan either, because there's all those tensions going through Kashmir. But it's interesting seeing Russia coming out and doing these things in connection with India, because I think both Russia and India are watching what China are doing, and with their Silk Road, and they don't want to get left behind. And so it's interesting seeing them partner to build
And
something like this.
diversifying, so they're not sort of entirely stuck with one or the other.
Yeah.
So it means they've got options.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, options are good for everyone. And it's probably going to drive the value of, I mean, I'm sure the people who administer the Suez Canal are going to have to look at this and say, well, we need to find a way to make this cheaper and more efficient as well. So, yeah, I think it's good. I think it's good for everyone.
What's this about a Linux smartphone?
Yeah, so everyone will be pretty familiar with my obsession with Linux. It's been growing and growing over time. But
Which is an open source operating system?
yeah, it's an open source operating system. So it's essentially a far better alternative to Windows and Mac. Just ask me.
Treading on some toes there. So what's this all about?
Yeah, so Pine64 is essentially, they're working to create an inexpensive Linux-based smartphone and tablet. So everyone will know that at the moment we've really only got two brands of smartphone. We've got an iPhone type of smartphone, or we've got, which runs on iOS, or we've got something that runs on Android. And that's basically our two options. Microsoft tried for a while, didn't work. And so people have been talking for a long time about the possibility of bringing out a Linux-powered smartphone. And you need to be aware that Android is already a Linux-powered smartphone anyway. They run on Linux, the Linux kernel, and Android is built from that. But Google have laid a whole bunch of other stuff on top of that, and companies have put even more stuff on top of that. And up until the last couple of years, having a phone based on a computer operating system wouldn't really work. And I think Microsoft were probably a little bit ahead of their time in trying to make that work. But now we've got this new thing called Electron, which if most people probably won't know about it, but it's the reason that so many apps can now run on your laptops and your phones, and you basically get the same experience on both, because it's essentially like running a web page or running a web app in a container. And so a lot of companies are now just building one thing. They're building a web application, and they're just pushing it out to not only their websites, but also all their apps on different platforms. It kind of lets you have a unified experience. Wow. And so people have said, well, if that's the case, then we could feasibly build a Linux smartphone, which would be open source, free, inexpensive to run the operating system, and everyone could contribute. And we could run most of the really popular apps just in these Electron containers, which is the way a lot of this stuff runs. Wow. So Pine64, so there's already one company that's come out and said they want to do that, and that's Purism, who are building like a privacy-focused Linux smartphone. But Pine64 have come out and said, we want to start building what they call a PinePhone. And the kit will include, and so they're going to send out developer kits this month to people. Wow. And the kit will include a baseboard, a 7-inch touchscreen display, camera, Wi-Fi, a lithium-ion battery case, and a number of other things that you've come to expect. But the kicker is they're aiming to have a smartphone that only costs around $100 for about 2 gigabytes of RAM and about 16 gig of storage, which is incredibly competitive.
Because they are known for like low-cost laptops, so it's a pretty exciting move.
Yeah. So if they can pull something like this off, and look, we got to wait and see, because Microsoft tried it and they didn't really succeed. But it could really open up the phone market, and it could mean we finally have a lot more choice again, because it's like a trade-off, either you go with Apple and you trade off on usability, or you go with the Android, Google systems, and you trade off on privacy. And it'd be nice to not have to trade off on either.
Yeah, it's true, yeah.
So you ran across something recently, Joe, about using DNA for big data storage.
Yeah, so this isn't a new idea by any stretch, and I believe they have a machine at MIT somewhere which costs tens of thousands of dollars to write data into. I think they managed to put like frames of a video and encode a video into DNA. Anyway, it's pretty expensive to print that up and run it. But yeah, this is a podcast that came out of Microsoft. Really interesting take on just a bit of information on using DNA for data storage. And yeah, it was with Dr. Karen Strauss, who is a senior researcher at Microsoft Redmond, and just basically talking about why we should consider storing data in DNA. We'll just play a little clip.
Why are you interested in using DNA for storage? What's the premise behind it?
We're very excited about DNA for at least 3 of its properties. The first one is density. So instead of really storing the bits into devices that we have to manufacture, we are really looking at a molecule, storing data in a molecule itself. And so a molecule can be a lot smaller than the devices we're making. Just to give you an example, you could store the information today stored in a data center, 1 exabyte of data, into a cubic inch of DNA. So that's quite tiny. Durability is the next interesting property of DNA. And so DNA, if preserved under the right conditions, can keep for a very long time, which is not necessarily possible with media that's commercial today. Right. I think the longest commercial media is rated for 30 years. That's tape, still tape.
Wow.
DNA, if encapsulated in the right conditions, has been shown to survive thousands of years. And so it's very interesting from a data preservation perspective as well. And then one other property is that now that we know how to read DNA, and we'll always have the technology to read it, so now we'll have those readers. If we don't have those readers, we have a real problem. But we'll have those readers forever, as long as there's civilization. So it's not like floppy disks that are in the back of a drawer just gathering dust. We'll really have technology to read it.
So that last point is massive. Because standardization is one of the hardest things. We've got all these... Everyone keeps talking about the fact that in 20 years we won't be able to read a lot of the media that we've stored things on.
So DNA does matter. It's such a good point because it's a universal sort of language.
Yeah. Isn't DNA really the OG blockchain though? When you think about it.
That's such a good point. Yeah. It's not really immutable, but...
No, and you can't alter it, can't you? You can corrupt DNA and you can change it.
Because it's when the A, the G, the C and the T bond to the wrong one because instead of AT, it's like that. And then
So the next bit of news, this was a really interesting one. So this came out of ccn.com, and it was a news piece about an electric bike which is running on the Lightning Network with Bitcoin micropayments.
Yeah, so Matthias Steinig, a German developer whose focus seems to be on developing the Lightning Network enabled technologies. So that's one of the speed up technologies that is there for Bitcoin. Long story short. But he's created a rentable electric bicycle that allows users to pay for boosts where the electric motor kicks in and the cyclist can do less work for tiny amounts of Bitcoin.
So the bike rental system has 2 components, both which operate on cheap Raspberry Pi hardware with stable code that's relatively easy because it's written in Python for commercial developers to tweak and potentially improve upon. And the first is a server component, which authorizes the bike's battery to deliver the boost to the bike, and that's generally for like a prepaid length. And the second is a component attached to the bicycle, which has a wireless receiver and an LCD screen. So it's a really interesting proof of concept, and it is just a proof of concept. It's just a novel implementation, but I believe his goal with it was to show that with this new side channel technology using Lightning, that it is possible to have a workable micropayment system that can interact with real-world pieces of equipment and technology.
Yeah.
So check out that article. It was a really interesting little article and just showed where the Bitcoin network is at as far as being able to handle microtransactions that they may not have been able to handle 6 months ago or even 12 months ago.
Next piece of news, more in the electric transport area. Electric flying is becoming a reality, says the EasyJet CEO. As EasyJet, which is a low-cost European airline, plan to test a nine-seater electric plane next year. So, electric propulsion has been slowly taking over in almost every sort of sector of transportation, but flight has been a bit of a tricky one to electrify. So last year, this electric plane startup, Wright Electric, stepped out of stealth mode, and a few months later, they announced a partnership with EasyJet. But now the EasyJet CEO has said that they've made progress, and he can now see an electric flight future. So they'll be testing this 9-seater electric plane as soon as next year.
Yeah, and they want to electrify their short trip routes, and that'll be their first step in that direction. But they're actually aiming for a battery-powered 150-seat plane to compete with 737-sized aircrafts for short-haul trips.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of domestic trips, for examples.
And most flights on, I think, no, not most flights, 30% of flights are under 300 miles in distance. So that's a it's a big market.
Yeah.
Whether they can actually do something there, is another question.
I mean, it'd be a really interesting one to watch because jet fuel is expensive. It's really expensive. It's part of the reason flights are so expensive. But electricity doesn't really change cost. You can't get like jet electricity. You've either got electricity or you don't. So
That's a good point.
Yeah, it'd be one to watch. I mean, I just bought an electric mower and an electric whippersnipper.
Wow.
And like I'd only ever used petrol mowers before this, but this one, it just has a battery and it's like a tool battery. And you just plug it into the front of the mower and away it goes.
Wow.
You just use it like a normal mower. And I was amazed at how good it was. A lot quieter. I just used, electric battery, ran the mower, and then I'd take it out the front of the mower, plug it into the whippersnipper, and then I'd use that the brush cutter to do all the edges.
Wow.
Same battery. No need for fuel, just a battery.
Wow.
And it all worked.
Sticking it to the man by doing your gardening. That's great.
Well, it just shows that like electric powered stuff is really starting to get to the point where it's actually competitive with petrol stuff. Same thing with dirt bikes. There's some dirt bikes that have been running in some of the hardest enduros in the world.
Wow.
And they've been competing. The only problem they're having is the batteries.
I mean, last piece of news coming from Austria, they're going to let drivers of electric cars go even faster than regular drivers of petrol, gasoline, diesel or hybrid cars. So in certain conditions, they're saying, under a recently approved amendment to the country's speed limits, during emissions-restricted times, which are tied to high pollution levels, owners of EVs will be allowed to go at 81 miles an hour versus 62 miles an hour for, in a particular speed region, which is 30% faster.
Yeah, it's about 130 kilometers an hour versus 100 kilometers an hour, which is significantly faster. And there is some concerns that this may increase the chance of accidents. This might have a lot of unforeseen consequences, but it is a pretty good incentive. If you want to incentivize people to buy electric cars, I mean, the one thing that's going to make a lot of people that buy cars sit up and take notice is if you tell them you'll be able to go faster.
It's true.
So in this next segment, we've got an interview with TM Lee from CoinGecko, and we actually interviewed him earlier tonight.
So we've been bouncing back and forth with emails for almost 6 months now, and it's been good to finally get some of his time. Absolutely lovely dude. So here's the interview. So today we've got TM Lee, who's the co-founder of CoinGecko, one of our favorite tools for researching cryptocurrencies. CoinGecko gives you a bunch of awesome data with all the metrics you'd expect, but interestingly, with a bunch of unique features, including trading activity, developer activity, community activity, and an overall CoinGecko store. So it's really interesting. It's unique stats that you don't find anywhere else. So you can find them at coingecko.com. Welcome to the show, TM. So good to have you on the phone.
Thanks for having me. Great pleasure to be with you guys.
Yeah, so first of all, TM, could you tell us a little bit about your background? So what's your story? What led you up to this place, and how did you get into crypto in the beginning?
So I think the first time I heard about Bitcoin was sometime in 2011, 2012. I was still in college at the time, still doing my undergraduate in computer science. I had come across Bitcoin a couple of times on the internet, but at the time, I never really get the whole point of it. I just quickly dismiss it. After I graduated, I think sometime 2013 or so, I was working as a software developer. Somehow, something got me really interested in learning about monetary history. From there, I started to learn about the history of money, which also got me to understand more about economics and finance. Of course, while researching those topics, the word Bitcoin popped up again. This time, it's being called so-called digital gold. or as a technology that will change money. So I thought to myself, okay, what is this about? I'm quite convinced because lots of smart people are also discussing about the valuability of Bitcoin. So I decided to spend some time understanding about Bitcoin a little bit more by skimming through the white paper, watching a bunch of YouTube videos, basically any materials that I can get my hands on in order to feed my curiosity, right? Then I finally get it, right? I then understood why Bitcoin came to be and why people start to believe in it. So yeah, knowing isn't enough. I have to experience it. So I thought the best way to experience Bitcoin is to try to own some of it. And since Bitcoin was a new thing to me, I don't even dare to buy any of them, right? So I try to figure out how I can obtain them for free. So I got my first couple of Bitcoin through faucets. Faucets are basically this tool where you solve some captchas, you do a little mini test, you get rewarded with very small amount of Bitcoin. So got very little of those, and I started experimenting a little bit, making some transactions, trading it with other cryptocurrencies, trying out different services. And after spending some time, I thought that, Bitcoin is a really, really, it's a simple thing, but it cuts into many aspects, right? Technology, finance, legal, and so on. So I thought that this will one day, in a few years, become an industry of its own, and which looks like the case today. So yeah, being software developer myself, I have the desire to build things, and I thought like, okay, why not explore building application and tools within this space, and that's how it is.
So you co-founded CoinGecko with Bobby Ong. So how did you guys meet, and how did you come up with the idea?
So funny, the way we meet is by quite an accidental thing. Like I was working in a startup company in Singapore, and Bobby, who is currently my partner, he was visiting my CTO. They happened to be friends, and I was really, really excited about crypto at the time. And so there was an introduction being made, and I told Bobby, when I come back to Malaysia, let's try to do something together. So that was, I think, early 2014. Both of us were pretty much involved in crypto as a hobby. So basically, we were just doing some trading, trying to learn more about the space. So at the time, there weren't that many cryptocurrency websites. While we were doing our trading and stuff like that, we were looking at market capitalization a lot. And we noticed that market capitalization alone may not be the only way to evaluate cryptocurrencies. So what happens is that we start to notice some coins or some cryptocurrencies have a larger community. It attracts a different type of community. Some of them have different features. Some of them have a stronger or more active developer activity. So what we end up doing is we scroll through places like Reddit, forum, GitHub, trying to get all this information and understand these projects better. As we were doing that, we realized, hey, maybe other people are doing similar things like this as well. So why not we create a tool and see how that goes? So that was when Bobby and I, we decided that we will create a website that would quantitatively measure cryptocurrencies based on data from all these different sources, comprising of community, developer, and market in general.
Wow, okay. And that's quite a big undertaking too, isn't it? So were there a lot of challenges when you first began trying to build this site that was essentially pulling in a lot of data from many different APIs and different coins and different information from different exchanges? What were some of the big hurdles that you faced trying to build this platform, which is now CoinGecko?
Right. So in the early days, when we were starting out, I think things weren't too bad. If I recall correctly, we started off with probably 10 to 20 coins. Everything seems manageable. And the crypto market was relatively small. To us, it feels more like a fun hobby project. We both actually continue to keep our day jobs while bootstrapping CoinGecko on the side. Of course, you fast forward today, the market has moved on so quickly that we suddenly see ourselves adding new coins every day, and we have new data points based on user requests, and suddenly we have like over 3,000 coins tracked on CoinGecko. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. So we had a lot of scalability issue, especially during the mid 2017 to early 2018, during this crypto mania. There were just tokens after tokens, coins after coins added to the market, and we're just having trouble trying to keep up. Traffic has increased as well due to interest, and because our website was a hobby project, it couldn't handle the load. So we're just spending a lot of time trying to keep the server up and survive through the entire bull run at the time. Of course, fast forward today, things are much better now.
Yeah.
We started to hire a team of people. We have a team of engineers working on scaling the site, building features, fixing bugs. So we use a lot of Amazon Web Services, Cloudflare, in order to scale our website based on the demand. But yeah, it's an ever-growing problem that would just continue to get bigger.
How many different sort of elements of hosting do you have to have? I mean, like it can't be cheap to host a website that big.
It's decent. Depends on, so we have some instances to serve the website. We have some instances to serve the API and some instances doing the work. And we're able to use some auto scaling as well, depending on demand. So that's why cloud services kind of work well for us. So like now the traffic is relatively lower, the load is lower as well. So we could scale down a little bit. But I would say we are also doing a bit of smart things under the hood to try to keep everything manageable.
And another question off that: how many people do you have on the team now? Because I mean, you've grown so much over the last year.
So currently we have about 9 people working in Kuala Lumpur, which is where the core team are. And we do have a decentralized team as well, where we got people from the US, Singapore, Hong Kong, who are working with us as well. So it's more of a good mix between a decentralized team and a core team based in KL here to get things done. Yeah. So the reason why we need to also grow the team is also like, aside from technical challenges, I would also like to highlight more on the operation challenges that we face from our perspective. So every day we get like requests for new cryptocurrencies or new exchanges coming to the market. And all these exchanges all have different structure and standard. So as a data aggregator, it's our job to try to consolidate this information. So an example would be like a coin symbol can mean something different between 2 exchanges. So we have to do our best job to ensure that they are correct. Sometimes the data being reported by exchange could be erroneous or strange, and we have to try to also figure that out. Support tickets come in every day. So all in all, we need a strong operation team to resolve all these issues and minimize some of these bottlenecks.
That's insane. That's absolutely, that's such a big task. I mean, especially because you're getting the trading volume sort of stats from all these different exchanges. And I mean, I've seen over the last year, and you've emailed us about a couple of them, but you've been building new features and adding new things in, because originally we were just like looking at the site, but then you've added in embeddable tickers where you can embed widgets on your own website with Bitcoin charts, or you've also got your own app that's come out. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so the app was launched maybe 3 to 4 months ago. It was something that we thought we needed to do, basically because there were a lot of requests for the past, I think, 2-3 years of operating that, do you have an app? Do you have an app? So we thought okay, let's give it a go. Let's start with an MVP with the most minimal feature anyone would need and see how that goes. And so far the feedback has been pretty good. People like it, and we want to continue to understand what user want from the app and extend on that. So if you come to our site, you get the full feature of CoinGecko, but on the app is pretty much stripped down version where you only get like the important parts of it. So that's how we are positioning those two apps. But recently we also launched a new feature called CoinGecko Beam that I'm really excited about because pretty much we want to push towards transparency and democratization of information. So basically, it's a channel for project teams to directly connect with the community by making like status updates or announcements. And these updates would then be disseminated through our platform, our channel, and also through other developers who would like to integrate with this via our own API.
Right. Okay. So that's giving some more exposure to maybe some of these projects that, because it's a hard problem at the moment. I know I talk to a lot of people and they say it's very hard as a new project in the crypto space to get your name out there because you can't advertise on Google, you can't advertise on Facebook. A lot of the time you can't even advertise on LinkedIn. So is that then a method for some of these projects to get exposure to your audience and for also your audience then to discover what new projects are coming out?
Well, exposure is one. I think more importantly, our focus would be to ensure that token holders or anyone who's interested in this project gets the updates directly from the team. As you know, like there's so many like rehash of news all over the place coming from many different places. And what we really want to try to solve here is to get all this first-hand information and first-hand news from the project teams directly to the users. In that case, we are actually introducing more transparency. So, for example, like say if a token moves from their holding to somewhere else, you want to have that announcement being made so that your holders know about them. So more on that portion rather than the exposure side. The exposure is definitely an added advantage or bonus on top of this as well.
That's awesome. So how do the projects, how does their news get into CoinGecko Beam? Do they need to sign up with you, or does CoinGecko Beam sort of pull news from their feeds? How does that work?
Yeah, so basically what we do is we reach out to the project team and then we do some sort of a verification to ensure that the people who are representing are from the team itself. So we'll go through a bit of a sort of like a KYC and things like that to get these guys on board, and they would then post the messages directly on our platform, which would then get disseminated out there.
Now, you guys have been running a fantastic newsletter for quite a while now. Now, if anyone's listening to this, we absolutely recommend subscribing to it. It comes out every few days, useful bits of news to know about, and it gets straight to the top of your inbox. It's really worth subscribing to. Check out the show notes for the link. Just the other day, you released your Q3 report, which is the CoinGecko quarterly market report. Now, this latest one was huge. It was 46 pages, packed with stats, a load of cool information in there. So if you're listening and you like exploring the stats, do dive into the presentation, have a look at it. Really worth looking at. But you guys have done an amazing job on this, TM, and thanks for putting it out, because it's so much work has to go into this sort of thing, and I mean it looks really slick as well. But what are some of the highlights that stood out to you?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, the team deserve the credit in terms of spending a lot of time curating and packing this enormous set of data into something digestible as a report. I would say that the objective of the report is to get everyone up to speed with the industry, as there are just so many things that have been happening. So whether you are a follower of the market or just sitting on the sidelines, the report should contain some key takeaway that everybody can get out of it. So if you look at the report, every page of the report has its purpose, and you would definitely get something out of them. The two sections that stood out for me personally would be, number one, the exchange section. I think here you can see the graphics that it really breaks down the market share between exchanges and also highlights the impact of transaction fee mining, which is this thing that's being done by a lot of these exchanges. And also like down the road, I do hope to see like more decentralized exchanges coming to the mix within the breakdown of the market share, because that's quite important. In terms of the second one, the second one is the major events. So this is truly the best section for anyone who have not been following the news at all. Like if you are just sitting on the sidelines, in this 1 to 2 pages, you could quickly get a complete overview of all the headlines in the last quarter. If you want to read through them, you could click those links, but just those 2 pages itself, you get to understand what has been happening in the last quarter. So that's definitely something I would watch out for. And then the market dynamics side of things, the one important stat is the Bitcoin dominance, is increased back to over 50%. So it indicates the importance of Bitcoin in the current bear market.
Brilliant. And you've got some really interesting data in there, TM, on masternodes as well as non-fungible tokens like CryptoKitties and Ethereum and all that kind of stuff. Were there any projects that really stood out to you out of those emergent sectors, the newer areas of crypto that we're seeing rise up?
Yeah, so at the moment, I'm personally just dabbling and playing around with a few these non-fungible projects just for fun. Just to understand the space a little bit. I'm particularly interested in non-fungible token applications for digital assets. To name one example, projects like maybe Gods Unchained sounds quite interesting to me. I'm not sure if you have seen them. It's basically a Magic the Gathering equivalent on the blockchain. Wow. So it seems to make sense. But because there's this scarcity of cards, you could play them online. But I'm not too sure if anyone would like to play, Magic Gathering card game on a blockchain. But it's definitely a good application or a good use case for non-fungible. I'm a little wary about non-fungible projects that touches the real world. For example, like tokenization of real world assets. But that's just personal. Like it might just be me. Not knowing how to handle all the complication and intricacies behind this. Like, for example, what happens if the real world assets move or exchange hand? Does the token holder is still entitled for the asset? And let's say if the real world assets needs to be stored in a vault, like who will have to bear the cost for those? So there is definitely a higher barrier of entry. And also requires more involvement from different parties to execute this sort of use case. But I'm sure there are some smart people who are trying to work this out because theoretically it's a sensible use case for non-fungible.
What are some of the areas in the market that you've been excited to watch and see? Because you've been paying attention for a very long time, and I mean these reports are so fascinating. I mean, there's so much really cool data. I mean, every single slide in this presentation is worth tweeting in itself. But what sort of areas have you been really excited to follow and watch as they progress?
Yeah, I think one area that I'm really excited about would be decentralized exchanges. Or DEXs. So if you ask me, like sometime last year, I would say DEXs is far from getting any adoption. But if you fast forward today, I think that time may come really, really soon because DEXs will play a significant role in time to come. This just shows like how fast the DEX space has advanced. So there is 2 parts in terms of the adoption of DEXs, right? There is the operator and the user side. For the operator, we start to see a lot of centralized exchange launching their own like DEXs to accompany those service. And all these DEXs are just getting more and more user friendly. And they also, some of them have a hybrid model where the order book is centralized in a way where you get higher throughput, but the custody of funds is decentralized. So you see more and more large centralized exchanges getting into the space, and this space getting more and more competitive, which would then means that there will be better services being offered to the users and traders. As for users, over time, users would just get more and more savvy. They would demand more methods of trading. They will want to have complete control of their funds. There will be a good portion of users trading on this centralized exchange today, but when they start to move to the next level, they would then want to trade on all these DEXs. So, of course, right now DEXs is not perfect because both DEXs and both centralized exchange will serve different purposes. So for a while, they will probably both coexist and serve different market niche.
Are there any other areas of the market that stick out for you?
I think the two bigger topic that I think a lot of people are interested in, but for me, I'm just watching right now, would be securities tokens and stable coins. I think given the current event where a lot of regulators are looking to regulate token issuance, and also with the recent news with USDT turn and the introduction of new stable coins, I think this is something definitely a space to watch. And yeah, maybe in the future report, we might want to cover this topic as well, if we can.
How easy is it to buy stuff in Kuala Lumpur with crypto?
I think so. A couple of years ago, there were quite a number of merchants accepting crypto. This was before the bull run. Mainly, they were using it as a marketing scheme, and they were like a small interest group, wanting to just spend their crypto. But I think the traction wasn't that good. Like a lot of people are not willing to part with their crypto, like they want to just hold them. So yeah, I think these days you don't normally see them anymore. And also that there's not that many like local fiat exchanges, mainly due to banking issues as well. So all these merchants, they're not willing to, if they just accept crypto just for fun, it's okay, but they won't find any place to liquidate their crypto into like fiat currencies. Yeah. I think that was one of the main issues. Yeah.
Does that attitude extend to the government over there as well? Like, what's the government's view on crypto in Malaysia?
So if I were to take an example of Singapore, the government kind of encourages adoption of crypto, but the banks are not willing to take the risk, as far as I recall. And I think that's the same is true for Malaysia as well. But I do see a few like frameworks and stuff like that being written to regulate crypto and also ICOs.
Yep.
So we should see something coming in place maybe next year when this framework actually get executed. But at the moment, it's not really something that is out there. Yeah.
Are there a lot of projects popping up over there, like crypto and blockchain projects in Malaysia?
So 2 years ago, there were a lot of like startup companies using ICOs to raise money.
Yeah.
So they incorporate blockchain into their existing product. But a few, say, crypto projects that you probably would want to probably have heard of. One of them is Etherscan. Etherscan is actually based off in Malaysia as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then you got this is NAM blockchain. I think one of the founder was Malaysian.
Yep.
So they have a NAM blockchain center in Malaysia, and they're doing a lot of groundwork as well. Then other than that, I would say they are mainly like ICO projects here and there. It's a pretty good special interest group, also like trying to teach people about the space, and yeah, it's a growing small community, I would say.
Awesome. Right, so you've pivoting from that a little bit then, you've developing the quarterly report every quarter, which like Joe said, we'd recommend everyone go sign up for. You've also done Beam, you've got the app. What's next for CoinGecko? Are there any other projects in the pipeline that you're able to talk about? And I guess just at a more macro level as well, where are you moving towards in this space? Where do you see CoinGecko factoring in 2019?
Yeah, I think for the past few months, we've been really on a high-speed mode, churning out a lot of different services in different platforms. I think I would say that we will be spending a lot of time solidifying all these things that we have already built, making them stable, making them scalable, and trying to make them the best in terms of what they do. And at the end of the day, we want to provide the most accurate and the best information across all aspects of cryptocurrencies. So you will probably see us expanding further on all of the existing services, the website, Beam, the app, API. Aside from that, we want to consider some experimentation. I can't disclose any of them yet at the moment, but we really want to try something that is really off the wall. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, the site has come on so far. The last few times there's been a major design iteration in the last couple of months at least, because it used to show all of the scores sort of on what you'd see developer activity, community activity, and then your overall score. But now you've gone into like a load more detail on this. It's really, really interesting to see it grow. It looks awesome, man. So where can we follow you and keep up to date with what CoinGecko is doing?
The best place to keep up to date with CoinGecko is, of course, following us on Twitter at CoinGecko, or drop us an email if you have any questions at hello@coingecko.com. Otherwise, feel free to subscribe our newsletter, and you would definitely be in the know about all the new stuff that are coming from us, and also the crypto industry in general. We have some guys who would summarize some of the most important news that you need to know every day, and it all goes straight into your inbox.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for your time, TM. Really appreciate it. Absolutely love the website as well, and we're subscribed to the newsletter, and we love seeing those reports. But thanks so much for building it, man. I mean, it can't have been a small project, and it's so good to see it. So thanks for taking the time to chat to us as well.
Appreciate the good positive feedback, and always looking forward to any suggestions you have so that we can improve the website.
Awesome.
Take it easy.
Cool. See you later, mate.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
He's a really good guy.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that.
No, it's good fun.
So we'll put the link to CoinGecko in the show notes. Definitely go and check it out. We've said many times it's one of our favorite crypto metric sites. Their newsletter is, especially their quarterly report, is unreal. It's really, really good.
So worth signing up for the newsletter just for that.
Definitely.
In our privacy and security section, we're talking about email forwarders. Now, one of the most annoying things that you may encounter in your daily life is spam email.
Yeah, so even on legitimate sites, you share your email and they might forward it on or do affiliate marketing. And it also means that when you're signing up with, let's say, your normal email, you're giving your email over every single time to a whole bunch of different companies. And email forwarders essentially give you a gap between your real email address and all these different sites that you sign up for. And that can also mean that you can use a different email for each site, which means that if it's compromised and say they get your password, which does happen, websites get breached, people get passwords, that means they won't have everything. So it's a really easy way to kind of create a little bit more privacy and security for yourself without really giving anything up.
So which tool do you use?
Yeah, so the one I can personally recommend is 33Mail. And 33Mail is an unlimited, free, disposable email address service. And we'll put the link in the show notes, but I've been using this for over a year. And what you do is you essentially create a new email address whenever you need one. So let's say I wanted to sign up for Facebook. I'd just create one that says, and let's say my domain name I've set up with 33Mail is matt.33mail.com. When I go to the Facebook sign-up page, I'd sign up as Facebook at matt.33mail.com. And then if I went to Instagram, I could sign up as Instagram at matt.33mail.com. And both of those email addresses will be automatically created. So I don't need to go into 33Mail and create a separate email for both. As long as I put something before the at, that will be created, and then all that email gets sent to whatever email I elect for all to be sent to. But the beauty of it is that I can see what's coming from Facebook because it's at that Facebook at Matt address. And I can see it's coming from Instagram at that address.
And you're therefore seeing who they're sharing your email address with.
Exactly. So if let's say I sign up for Facebook and then all of a sudden I'm getting emails from LinkedIn, I know that Facebook, and that's coming to my Facebook address, I know that Facebook have shared my details with LinkedIn. And it's really interesting to see who respects your privacy and who doesn't, who shares your info. And the beauty of 33mail too is you can turn them off as well. If you're getting a whole bunch of spam from one, you don't need it anymore, you can turn it off. So you're essentially just creating a way that no one really has your real email address, but it's all coming to your real email address. So the one caveat to that is I wouldn't advise using it for anything important, as you don't know how long a service like this is going to be around for, because it is free. You don't pay anything for it. You can get their premium service. But one of the ones I'll mention later has actually shut down, and it was a competitor to 33mail. So just be a little bit careful when you're using these things.
Now, if you just need a temporary throwaway one that can just last for a few seconds, I'd recommend Gorilla Mail. I use this whenever someone's like, oh, enter your details to download this ebook. And I'll be like, yeah, all right. And then just give them a Gorilla Mail email address. So they're disposable temporary email addresses. So there are some other emails, other services that are similar to 33mail. One's called Blur. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so Blur is a masked email service, and it's got a Chrome plugin which essentially allows you to choose when you're having to enter an email into a site, whether you wanted to enter a real email or what they call a masked email. And it's different to 33mail because it's all at the same domain. So it's usually just like a random set of numbers at blur.com or something like that. And the beauty of Blur is they've also got a credit card masking service and a password management service. So the credit card masking service, essentially what it does is it means that you don't need to give over your real credit card.
Wow.
You can give over like one of the Blur credit cards. So because the big issue with credit cards, of course, is if someone has your details, they can generally just bill that card. And so if you're in, like I was, a country where you can't actually trust all the ATMs, there's quite a risk of someone swiping your details and beginning to bill that card without your knowledge. So Blur allows you just to use essentially a masked credit card. And they've got like a phone masking service too. But both of those, the credit card and the phone masking service, they're paid, and as far as I know, they're only available in the US. I did try and sign up for it earlier because I know some people who use it in the States, and I think those premium services were only for the US residents currently.
So what other sort of tools are there to increase privacy further?
Yeah, so I mean, look, you could pair both of those. You could have a 33mail service, and then you could run a Blur service as well. And so your 33mail address you could give to Blur. And so then you could use Blur as like your day-to-day, get everything sent to your 33mail, which then gets sent to your real email if you wanted some more privacy. So that's a nice kind of combination. There was a website that I was going to share because I had used it before, and it's called notsharingmy.info. But I've since found that it's gone offline. So it's a little bit of a warning because it was basically another 33mail, and it got shut down. They just weren't making enough money, or I'm not sure what really happened. So the moral of the story is with those email forwarding services, don't store your essential information with them.
Now, you can use, you could create an account with Gmail or Outlook, or if you already have a Gmail account and you're not too worried about someone getting your original email, you can write a random word like Facebook plus and then your email address, matt@googlemail.com. So then it creates an account in a similar way. But yeah, just use something like 33mail or Gorilla Mail. Don't feed the beast.
And look, I think for your important emails, what you really want to start doing is using some kind of encrypted mail service. We recommend ProtonMail just because we've used it, and we'll put a link to that in the show notes as always. But I've been using ProtonMail for well over a year. I use it for my personal email. I use it for my business email. It works really, really well with everything. It's zero knowledge, so it means that if someone else is using ProtonMail and you're sending them an email, the provider won't know what the email says, and neither will anyone else, only you and the person on the other end, which is quite nice. And they're based in Switzerland as well, which has some of the best privacy laws in the world. But there's also another one called Fastmail, and I know a lot of people who use Fastmail, and it's a privacy-focused one as well. It's not zero knowledge as far as I know, but the beauty of Fastmail is that they've got like a calendar app, and I think they've got some other apps as well that integrate into everything. So you could feasibly get a lot of the benefits that you get from, say, having a Gmail account or an Outlook account with the calendar and the task list and all that other kind of stuff. I'm pretty sure Fastmail gives you all of that as well, which you don't get in ProtonMail. So, yeah, I'd recommend for your personal email to go with a service like that, something that cares about your privacy and is a bit more encrypted.
Cool.
Know someone who might enjoy this? Please feel free to share this with them.
You can find us at FOMO.show.
You can jump on Telegram at FOMO.show/Telegram.
You can follow us on Twitter at _FOMO_show.
And Facebook at Facebook.com/The FOMO Show.
And YouTube at FOMO.show/YouTube.
That's it for us here at The FOMO Show. Thank you so much for joining us. If you like our show, please do feel free to subscribe in your podcast app of choice or via our YouTube channel. I'm Matt.
And I'm Joe.
And as always, remember,
No FOMO.
but first, you've got to get mad.
Oh man, I am mad. Side note, space mining could probably just destroy our economy on planet Earth.
Oh, with all the natural resources.
Yeah, because
around
what if
there.
we mine an asteroid with gold on it?
Yeah.
Could completely trash the price of gold on our planet.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Switzerland.
Switzerland, where cheese,
Amazing place.
where the only thing, yes, cheese.
They do so much right in Switzerland. They really do. I mean, the more you think of it, yeah, cheese, watches, trains. All the trains are on time. They're all immaculate. Snow.
Our beautiful freaking landscapes.
Oh. Seriously. Switzerland. A lot of extreme
Secure
sports.
email providers.
I mean, we're talking about Proton Mail today, so like some of the best Bitcoin storage stuff is in Switzerland as well. Bunkers. They've got
voting systems.
I was to say their voting system's amazing. Canton, the Canton system.
Crime rates are terrible though.
Yeah,
There's no adventure.
no one does anything wrong. But they have a lot more local government stuff in Switzerland too. Like, local government does really seem to actually mean something.
Wow.
In Switzerland.
So it's not just some sort of pointless job.
Racket.
Man, it's just so, it makes me so angry.
Do you know there's a cafe in there's a warehouse I've been going to have some meetings recently, and there's a cafe nearby, and they wanted to be able to sell alcohol on their premises. They had to spend $25,000. This isn't even get the liquor license. This is just get the license, the pre-liquor license. Cost them $25,000 and took them a year. Wow. They had to get all sorts of inspectors to come out and inspect the property. There are all these different regulations that they needed to adhere to. And they haven't even got the license yet. I think it was just to get their cafe license or something, which was the step before getting your liquor license. $25,000. 12
just
months.
Rackets left, right, and centre. This is a country of bloody tennis supplies.
That's just
Excuse my
unreal.
language. It's enough to make you go mad.